I used to be busy from sunup to sundown, and yet my farm wasn't growing and my business wasn't growing. Turns out, being busy does not mean productive. There are three things that I've learned from owning a farm that has changed my life and my work. Number one, busy does not mean productive. It was easy for me to work really hard and tell myself that I was doing everything I could do all day, every day, because I was busy. I would get up early in the morning and I would work really, really hard, and I would do everything right in my own mind. I did all the things that seemed like they needed to be done. I would get up, I'd feed animals and take care of things, and then I would also build things that were for our upcoming farm and they were for our business. I would build things that were a part of that. I would try to attack social media and things like that and do things on social media that I did. I felt like I was constantly busy, and as a result, I thought that I should be winning and it was somebody else's fault. It wasn't mine. I couldn't quite relate and understand that busy was not being productive. Now, what I had to learn when I started really analyzing this, I started watching some more successful farmers and some more successful business owners around me. And I started realizing that just because it had to get done didn't mean that it was the most important thing. Just because, like, like for example, I wasn't working hard enough on advertising my work. So I was working really hard on going out and getting what I needed in my business, as far as I was raising an excellent product with beef and lamb and pork and things like that. I was doing really good work in that product. Okay. But I wasn't marketing it very well. And what I told myself is I just didn't have the time. And all that, as long as I got up in the morning and I worked diligently, I worked really, really hard all day, every day, then that means that I did my best. That means that I did all that I could do. And basically, I could go to bed at night and sleep good. The thing is I did sleep good because I did work hard. But I had a false sense of reality there for a while, because hard work does make you feel good. But after a while, when I started realizing that my farm isn't growing, my business isn't growing, the same thing happened with YouTube. I was doing the same thing when I was trying to grow my YouTube channel. I was not, I was working hard, I was pushing hard, but I wasn't strategic. And so what I started realizing is I had to lay out my whole day. I had to start putting things together one step at a time and figure out where to put all of my effort. Where do I need to put this effort? And I started realizing that sometimes, instead of getting up and going straight to work, it made more sense to sit down, drink a cup of coffee, and plan that day out. One thing that I learned from my wife, she was excellent at this, and she still is she's really good at taking notes. Now, I personally have to tweak it myself. I don't go quite that direction, but my goodness, it helps so much just to get your plan together, get what you need to do together. I was a go-getter, I was a hard worker, but what I learned here on the farm, because the farm is going to teach it to you. Now, this applies to your business, it applies to everything else in your life. It applies to going out and investing in the world, which is something that me and my wife are actually doing a lot of right now. But I learned it from the farm because the farm will take all of your time. The farm will take as much time as you give it. There is always something else to do on the farm. It does not matter what you do. But this one thing that I learned from the farm applies to everything, and so do these other two. So the next one is responsibility doesn't care how you feel. Now, this one was one that I already knew. It wasn't really something I ever had to learn on the farm, but it's something that my wife specifically shared that she had to learn herself. And honestly, it's something I've seen quite a few people have to learn the hard way. My wife, she when she first started running this farm by herself, a lot of you know that I do shutdown jobs on the side. She would have to run the farm on her own. And when I was here, I would run this farm and I would take care of things, and she would take care of the book work and She would take care of some of the things, but she didn't know exactly everything that had to go into it. Even though she grew up farming, she didn't grow up this style farming. She grew up more industrial style farming. And so growing up that way didn't quite teach her some of the things that I've learned here and that I had to learn growing up. So what she would do, she would not feel well. And of course, a lot of people are going to hate on me for, my wife was here working while I was working somewhere else. It is what it is. This is something that we've agreed to do. But my wife, she would not feel well. Either it was her time of the month, everybody has it, all women have it, or she would get sick or something, and she was used to not necessarily having to work really hard towards that, but she never had to run a business on her own before that, and she never had to run a farm on her own. And what she learned from that is that you are going to have to keep working no matter what. Now, this sounds cliche. This sounds like something that you would hear that's just so simple. The problem is you don't necessarily learn this until you are responsible for something, until you start running your own business or you start running your own farm, okay? Now, why this is important for a lot of people that don't necessarily farm or don't necessarily run their own business is I don't care who you are as a man, you need to run something that is your own. Not everybody's cut out to be a farmer. Not everybody's cut out to be a businessman. But you need to run something that's your own. If you have a job and you know this is where you're going to retire, this is a good job, you need something that is your own. And when you're working on that thing that is your own, whether this applies to your children, whether this applies to your marriage, because this is something that was tough for me, is in my marriage, sometimes I didn't feel like being a good husband. And I hate admitting that. That is not easy for me to admit as a man. And she felt the same way. Sometimes she didn't feel like being a good wife. It's just a normal thing. If you're married long enough, then you'll go through that. We've been married for 12 years now. A couple days ago was our anniversary, and it's been 12 good years. That doesn't mean it hasn't been 12 hard years and 12 learning years that we have learned a lot about each other. Sometimes you want to check out, but what you realize is that your responsibility has got to keep on going. It does not matter how you feel. This is true in marriage. This is true in a farm. And this is something that she learned on a farm, and she specifically requested that I publish this because she learned this from this farm, and she said that it actually applied to her marriage. Now, seeing her put out this effort in our marriage actually helped me in our marriage as well, because I started seeing that, you know what? We both started seeing this together. We were really working together on this, that we have to keep putting out effort no matter what, no matter how we feel, no matter what we think is going on. We're on the same team. We have a common goal. And so that is something I think that you can apply to any part of your life, is no matter how you feel, you're going to have times where you do not feel like it is worth getting out of bed, like it's worth going forward. It does not matter how you feel. The top priorities, the most important things, you're going to have to get done. So you're going to have to know what are those most important things. For a farm, it's feeding and keeping everything alive, no matter what it is, whether it's grain or whether it's livestock, whether you're raising crops, whatever you're raising, it's keeping those things alive. And in your marriage, whatever it is that you have, whether it is your business or your marriage or whatever it is, you need to know what is the most important things. And no matter how you feel, you're always going to have to stay on top of those things. Now, number 3, I think, was the hardest lesson for both of us to learn. You don't control outcome, you control effort. I remember when we first started cattle several years back, I want to say it was around 2016, we had 10 cows. And one of those cows, and of course we had some issues out of other ones, but I remember there was one specifically, had an absolute massive calf. Now this was actually a heifer, I'm sorry, it was 10 heifers. And this was a massive calf. It was a bull calf. The bull calf was so big, I remember my wife tried to get over top of it and straddle it in order to milk the calf, and the calf literally kind of stood up and it picked her up. I mean, it was high enough to elevate her feet off of the ground. It was a big calf for that size. And we were able to pull it from the mama successfully. It was hard on the mama, but it did not kill the mama. We saved her. And I remember it was cold, real cold. And we had to put out so much effort to get this calf pulled and to save this mama. So we saved the mama, but it was so traumatic for her that she just would not take the calf. No matter what we did, we tried holding her up and getting her to suck. And of course, at this point, it is cold, cold. And so obviously we had to go get this calf warm. So we got the calf warm. We were warming it up inside. And the mama, we had the mama held up. And after we got the calf warm, then we started, we did everything we could do to get it to suck from mama. Just could not get that mama to suck. So we finally gave it some colostrum and we gave it some milk. You got some tubes you can put down their throat. And we were able to successfully feed it. And the next day we come along and it was good. And once we realized that the mother wasn't going to take it, then we accepted that we were going to have to bottle feed this baby. And for 3 months, we bottle fed this calf. And this calf was growing and it was doing good. Just good looking calf, And of course, it was always going to be a bottle calf. Everybody knows bottle calves just don't turn out as good as a calf that's been raised by its mama. Inevitably, this calf one day just started going downhill and we could not bring it back up, and this calf died. And this has actually happened to me, not this exact story, but I've had scenarios like this. But this is the first time it really sunk in for my wife, and then she's had a couple other examples as well. But one thing that you learn from those types of things on your farm is that you can't control the outcome, okay? Now, this relates back to multiple different things in your life, okay? If you're trying to invest in stocks, like me and my wife, we invest in different types of things, rental property and stocks and things like that. And if you're trying to invest in these things, you can't control and say with 100% certainty that this piece of rental property or this stock is going to make you better off 10 years down the road, okay? But what you can say is you can look at what is predictable. You can look at this is the most likely outcome and do what makes the most sense. So you can't control the outcome. We could not control that that calf was going to inevitably die, okay? But what we could control is that we put out all the effort we could. We did everything right. We did all that we could do to make sure that it was going to survive. And the same thing would be with any type of investment. You put all of the in all of your effort that you can. You know for sure that you did everything you could to have your investments in place, or you did everything you could to have your business grow the way it needed to grow, okay? You can't control 100% of your outcomes. You're going to have some down days. You're going to have some negative things, but nothing teaches you that like a farm. A farm is relentless. It is constant, especially a multi-stage farm like ours, where we raise multiple different types of livestock, greens, and everything else. You're constantly watching and you understand very intimately that the only thing you can control is doing your best every day. And at the end of the day, what you're going to want to tell yourself, whether you succeed or fail, is that you did your best. You did all you could do. And I promise you, at some point, you're going to start to succeed as long as you're doing that right there. You can't control outcomes, but you can control your effort. So if you're a farmer, you already know all of this. If you're not a farmer, it's only a matter of time before you eventually learn this. So the question isn't, are you busy? The question is, are you building and growing and moving forward? Like and subscribe.